Hi there, I'm Paula Jamison. I'm coming to you from Public Media Network in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And today we have the pleasure of having our guest, Dr. Rudy Cashman, here from Fort Wayne, Indiana. And we are talking about body, mind, spirit connections. Dr. Rudy, some of you know because his show has been produced here or shown here in Kalamazoo. And I have fast become part of your fan base. I'm so pleased to be talking to you today. Dr. Rudy has a background, a long career as a neurosurgeon, and plus this amazing interest in looking at the mind-body-spirit connections. And today we are going to talk about what you refer to as the non-diet. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what that means?
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, Paula.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure to do this show with you today, and you're an unusual person that you would have the mind-body connection in mind already. But I see you went to took some schooling at Western Michigan, and I think this area is blessed to really have this type of connection here. I was a neurosurgeon for close to 45 years. Spent an additional 2 years in the Vietnam War. Went to IU and to Georgetown for my neurosurgery training.
Wow.
Matter of fact, my first year at Georgetown is when Kennedy was shot.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of tells you that I'm not exactly
Don't admit a thing.
39 years old here. But during my time in neurosurgery, I discovered that the majority of the patients I was seeing, maybe 50, 75% of them, could get well with some coaching. So I sort of developed the mind-body connection. A lot of us, I was seeing people for stress, manifesting with physical symptoms, but stress was really the problem. I saw a lot of people who had developed being overweight and some even obese, who had eating problems, and the illnesses, the chronic illnesses, were related to what they were eating. So then I started reading about the mind-body connections through Candace Pert, and I started looking into nutrition as being part of this. And I think nutrition is just huge, which led me to the original book that I wrote on it, The Secret of the Non-Diet. I mean, what am I really saying here is that we can eat well, but we don't have to diet. Who wants to count calories and have portion control, which is a lot how proper eating is taught today. But, you know, maybe 10% of the people can do that. You know what I mean? Most of us like to eat till we're full. But my point really of this book is if you eat the right food, you can eat till you're full. But to do that, I think you have to have knowledge. Most of us lack knowledge. Nutritional knowledge is confusing. So many books out there, for example. But I've read probably 200 books, and all the books you read about, famous New York Times bestsellers, I've read all of those in scientific papers, and I developed, you know, my opinion. Not everybody would agree 100%, but I go to the big seminars and just came back from a eight-day boat thing with Colin Campbell and Neil Bernard and all these, you know, well-known.
Really big names.
Really big names.
Right,
Doesn't mean I agree with everything they do, but it's down the line of, you know, what I do. And I think we need to understand a little bit about metabolism, you know, a little bit. How is sugar metabolized? Protein, because you hear things like, let's start with protein, for example. You know, we 21 amino acids. The proteins can be broken down into amino acids, and everybody thinks that we have to have animal protein. You know, I can't get my protein if I don't eat animals. Okay. Well, actually, that's not true. LaPay wrote a book in 1971.
Oh my, yes.
And, from a planet, you know.
Diet from a Small Planet,
Diet from a Small Planet. Then she wrote another book saying she was wrong 20 years later. But no one ever heard of that book. Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because you break down the protein in plants, like a bean is full of protein, for example. Matter of fact, this will surprise you. 100 calories, we're talking about calories, okay? 100 calories of broccoli has twice as much protein as 100 calories of beef.
That makes sense because 100 calories of broccoli is a lot of broccoli,
it's going to be a lot of broccoli,
Yeah.
But it has all the amino acids in them. But the plant protein doesn't carry with it the fats
Yes.
and the toxins and the cancer factors. Meat, for example, has in it IGF-1, which is a promoter of cancer. It has NAFG8, another promoter of cancer, and a few other factors. TMAA, and another thing that inflames you and can cause cancer. So to get meat products out of your life might save you, you know, a lot of trouble. I didn't say zero, you know what I mean? I'm saying eat a bit less because it has cholesterol and fats with it. And today, the fats that are in them are not necessarily healthy because what are they feeding? What do you do with the majority of the beef that we're eating today? I tell you how they do it. 6 months, they put it in the grass, okay? Then the last 150 days, they put it in a cage, okay? They don't remove the excrements.
Right.
And then they use the pesticides and herbicides and fattening things to fatten them up because they get paid by how fat they are. And then after about 100, and they have a trough go by. If you go to Kansas City, they will then have a trough 5 miles long, and these animals just eat everything out of this fatty trough of genetically hybridized or modified corn. They even use chicken litter. It's full of fat.
Yes.
And then I don't want to even talk about the slaughtering of it.
No.
And we're not going to do that today. And that's what you eat, full of omega-6. That's the bad fat, okay? We have essential fatty acids, which omega-3 is the good one, okay? That's the one that makes your arteries move and dilates your arteries and it has good chemicals. Omega-6s have bad chemicals that cause cancer, inflame your arteries, cause vascular disease, cause inflammation. You know, we're speaking more about inflammation all the time. And so to eat less of that, you know, would be good for your health. So you can get, so I think we have it straight now that you can get your amino acids from plants.
From plants,
You don't have to be a meat eater. I mean, from a personal standpoint, the less you eat, the easier it's going to lose weight or the healthier you're going to be. 60 to 80% of cancer is due to eating a fatty diet. That's been proven now.
So when you're talking about sort of health risks, let's say, and a lot about what I've heard called the standard American diet, which the acronym is SAD, which tells you a lot. But that's a very meat-based diet normally.
Yes.
And our meat sources, I mean, I think we've all grown up thinking, well, our meat sources are got to be pretty safe. There's inspections and things like that. But what we're not looking at is how this meat was raised, and if these animals aren't fed a healthy diet and don't lead a healthy life, probably they're not going to be really healthy for us to eat in a lot of quantity. I mean, we can eat some, but...
No, I would agree with that statement. You need to know where it's come from. So to ask the waiter, for example, you know, is this an organically raised beef or in the supermarket? How is it labeled? But now, you know, some of these stores around, they're labeling the food.
That's
you know what I mean?
right.
Organic, non-organic, and to pay some attention to that. The same with fish. 90% of the fish you're eating, say, in a restaurant you're buying, comes out of a pond.
Right.
You got to know, what did they feed the fish? What do they feed the fish?
If you want fish wild caught might be better. For you, right?
Exactly.
Right.
If it's caught in Alaska, for example, I mean, they can have a little mercury in it, but you don't eat it 7 days a week, it really wouldn't matter. That fish would be better for you because it's full of omega-3. You eat fish from a fish pond, it's full of omega-6, and the omega-6 will inflame your body, cause vascular disease, heart attacks, and strokes.
So you're not getting the benefit that you may think, because people told you it's good to eat fish, but you have to be a little careful.
But I do like to say, too, fish is about 30% fat. So if you're way overweight, you ought to really limit that. You know what I mean? Remember, fat is 9 calories per gram, okay? All right? So versus carbohydrate or protein is 4 calories per gram. So if you have a much of a weight problem, eating meat is not a good idea. You know, maybe some trimmed chicken, you know, with skin removed, for example, and sautéed instead of fried, because frying produces advanced glycation products, inflammation products, which are not good for your health.
Anyway,
so
right.
food preparation is important. You know, so to learn to saute, for example, maybe a tiny bit of olive oil, or with water, or with some vegetable juice. You know, and so to learning to cook is important. You know,
that's a really important point too.
Yeah.
Is we have gotten, I think, more and more dependent on food that's prepared by companies.
Right.
Not even other people that we can put a face to.
You got it.
But other companies, and yes, you can read the labels, but it's not the same as being in your own kitchen.
Yeah, it's processed food, isn't it?
It is processed food.
It's processed food.
It's processed
I mean,
food.
the best thing to do not to eat processed food to begin with. You know, learn to eat organic food, do your own cooking. Yeah, you won't believe there's only 35% of people in this country know how to cook, okay? And half of those may not be speaking the truth from what my reading. You know, and I will say myself, I'm not a good cook, although I'm getting a little better at it. And if you can gather the family together at least once a day to eat a meal together, even if you feed them some bad food, they do better because of the family thing. So learning to cook and teaching your children to cook is wonderful. Dr. Varula and I, a pediatrician from Fort Indiana, you wouldn't believe this, Paula, but we give cooking classes to children.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And they love it. The parents aren't always that happy necessarily, but the kids teach the family. They go back. Kids would love to learn how to cook. So take advantage of that.
It's magic. You're putting these things together and something different comes out. It's a wonderful
and tell them a
thing.
little bit about the food, what the good food is. And if you have a child who just doesn't want to change to what they eat, or I don't eat vegetables, they say it may take 20 tries, but then they adapt to the taste. But if you start it as a baby, it's nothing. It's very simple. Matter of fact, for a baby to accept fat, you got to work at it. We don't have taste buds for fat.
True.
So you have to teach them to enjoy fat. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fascinating.
and I also don't recommend milk. If you read Keon's book, Whitewash, if you read that and you still want to give milk to your child, I'd be surprised. Very scientific, well-read. It's the protein, the casein, is very carcinogenic, causes type 2 diabetes, a lot of allergies from it. Dr. Rulo, my friend, the pediatrician, his patients are not giving milk to their children. You know, and the amount of ear infections, way down. Just
Really?
my office is
interesting.
Yeah,
Yes.
way down.
Yeah,
Pulmonary infections, ear infections go way down.
Well, I hear, I mean, one of the things you always hear about milk is it's a so-called mucus-producing food, which would mean if you were prone to having colds and things, it would make it worse.
Yeah, make it worse. And then there's a lot of sugar in it, so you gain weight. And, you know, and even 2% fat milk is the label 2%, it's actually 35% fat.
That's a lot.
I use, if you're looking for something like that, use almond milk. No fat, no sugar. That I put a little bit of coffee, you know. Maybe last night I had a little bit, one little milk, had a little almond milk. That's a good one to remember.
Well, and that's one of the things, you know, you're mentioning some kind of what might have been called alternative sources to replace dairy, but those things have become quite common.
They are common.
Our big grocery stores, you can buy all of those things in the dairy case now.
Isn't it wonderful? You know, we say some not very nice things about fast food places and stuff, but Paula, let's realize, if we went in there and ordered good food, what do you think they'd be selling?
Good food.
Good food.
Good food,
Remember
absolutely.
that. So I think just to blame them is not quite fair. You know what I mean? And look at these huge markets we go to today. There's constantly somebody moving into town. I'm actually good friends with John Mackey. He was on the cruise with me. That was interesting because I hadn't seen in a while Whole Foods. But the other places like it now. You know what I mean?
That's right,
Earth Fair
yes.
and different ones you can go to now.
We just have an Earth Fair now.
Yeah. You need to walk through them, and some really things are changing. But you must become knowledgeable. You must participate, you know, and know about what good food is. So we have to watch the type of protein that we're taking in. Remember what I said about fat? Fat from nature is healthy. Like guacamole, for example. If it's natural, it's healthy. But if you're going to eat remember, what the animal eats is what you're eating. So you got to know what the animal is eating. What's the fish eating? What's the beef eating? What's the lamb? What are they eating? Because that's what you're eating. And here's an interesting subject too. You'll find this fascinating. Epigenetics. I never heard of it until a year ago.
Tell us about that. I just heard about it too.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. There's genetic information in the food you're eating. Like if you say eating a plant-based diet, it's got genetic information in it. Okay. It has biomathematics in it. Look at a leaf, at a flower. It's got 3 leaves. What's the next? 4? No, it's 5. That's based on mathematics, by Fibonacci numbers. But I've had 3 people who've lost over 100 pounds. Okay.
Whoa,
and
good for them.
that's not that's what we're talking about today necessarily. But I have a picture of them in some of my PowerPoints. You can go to my website, cashmanhealth.com, where you see 150-pound weight loss, and they look like movie stars. Why is that? Because of the genetic information in the food and the symmetry. Remember I talked about mathematics? Has rearranged their body. I've never seen anything like it. There's a book called Deep Nutrition by Shanahan. Got to read that book. It shows the mathematics of it. And that's why some of these Roman structures from years ago still standing, because it's called the Golden Rule. It's of mathematics in nature.
Yes.
Interesting subject. We can, which people don't realize, is you think you're born with your genes and your chromosomes, right? Well, 98% of your gene structure and your chromosomes can be changed through the telomeres by lifestyle, nutrition, and the environment. So when does heart disease begin? When do illnesses begin? I used to say in my lectures, heart disease begins at age 2 based on autopsies done in Begalusa study in New Orleans, okay? And then people say, wow, yeah, at age 2. But now we're going back to the grandparents, how they ate, their habits, whether they smoked, and then the parents, and what's in the uterus, whether the mother is drinking, what she's eating, whether she's smoking or not. And the food she's eating is affecting the telomeres, the extension of your chromosomes, and changing that child.
So what you're saying, and I mean, this is really, this is really an important message.
It's groundbreaking.
It's groundbreaking, and it is. I think it's relatively new, but that it's not just, you're doing something and it's just affecting you, but that if you're going to be a parent, this is something that could have consequences a couple of generations down the line.
Absolutely, yes. It goes back 2 or 3 generations, and goes forward 2 or 3 generations about how you respond to the environment, okay, your lifestyle, smoking or whatever you're doing, whether you're exercising, okay, and toxins from the environment, okay. And the biggest one that affects your telomeres, that's the extensions of your chromosomes, very interesting, is what you eat. So to eat a nutrient-dense diet. Let's talk about that a little bit. What are specific?
Yes, you had some suggestions for that.
Call them
I'd love to hear that.
Secrets of the non-diet. I'll just read a few to you.
Okay.
For example, all carbohydrates are not alike, okay? Starchy, that means they have some, like a potato would be starchy.
Bread,
Complex carbs, they still have the coverings, okay? Quell hunger and turn down your internal furnace, burning calories as heat and energy. The energy of you digesting the foods of color, for example, or nutrient-dense color, starchy vegetables, for example, burns up a lot of energy, and you'll absorb maybe 70% of that. Only about 70% versus fat. You absorb 97%. Only 3% used up on energy versus carbs. 70% will you absorb. 30% will be burned off as energy. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you eat that way, you can eat a lot, but not gain any weight. And very interesting, isn't it? And So the same starchy carbs that prevent disease and premature death can stop and even reverse disease. You can take type 2 diabetes, you can prevent it, stop it, and reverse it. You can reverse fast disease. Dr. Dean Ornish proved it in his studies with angiography. He proved the point. You can reverse vast disease by proper nutrition. Wow. You get advanced heart disease. Esseltine, Cleveland Clinic, took 25 of the worst cardiac patients at the Cleveland Clinic, and I met him again the other day in this cruise I was on. And those people are still alive today.
Yeah.
25 years ago.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
And it's, again,
Yeah.
I love this. You've got the secret of the non-diet, because it really is something that most people don't think about.
I didn't always know it. And resistant starch, okay, that's with a lot of fiber. Fiber is your friend because it prevents, because of the complex sugar, it can't all be broken down. It'll pass in your stool. So fiber is your friend, okay? And complex carbs absorb fat and cholesterol at the same time. Interesting, okay? And so foods that promote weight loss are high in complex carbs, take more energy to break down. Remember what I just told you?
Yeah.
Okay? And so reducing saturated fat without reducing refined carbohydrates works against the goal to lose weight and prevent or reverse chronic disease.
So, and that is something that we had to kind of learn the hard way, isn't it? Back when all of a sudden everything was just sort of low fat, but when you bought processed low fat foods, they often put sugar in them instead.
Yeah, you got it.
You know, and
Oh,
so wait a minute.
These manufacturers, they figured this out. It's a Monell Institute in Philadelphia. They provide these studies for these companies, and they reduce the fat. You know, there was a fat theory of weight loss
I remember.
promoted by the government. It was incorrect.
Yes.
It was incorrect. Now they're realizing really it's the sugar. It's a little bit of fat, but it's not mostly the fat. Remember, for 40 years, they say, and fat is your enemy. It's changing, and people are waking up to it. We all hear about trans fats, where they took oils and hydrogenated them, heated them, they made them solid, like margarine. But that reduced your heavenly cholesterol, the HDL, and increased your lousy cholesterol, the LDL. The cholesterol theory of disease is going down the tube. Not that it's totally meaningless, but I know plenty of people who have a cholesterol of 400, but they're very low density LDL caused by fructose and sugar is normal, and they're healthy. And we need some cholesterol because your brain is made from the darn thing, and your hormones are made from that. So you don't want a cholesterol-free way of living.
Right.
You see, and these drugs that drop it are sort of coming into question. I mean,
well, I think as we're already starting to wind down towards the end of our program, it would be really good maybe to come back to some of the real basics about some real practical tips for people. You've talked about some overall concepts about types of food. Could you give some examples? Like if you had your druthers and you were going to follow the non-diet, which I think you do from the looks of you,
absolutely.
What kinds of things what would you have for breakfast? What would be a typical lunch? What would you have for supper?
I got here early because I want to be sure for the show here. So I stopped in one of your hotels here today, okay? And it was beautiful what they had. I had steel cut oatmeal, okay? It was hot. It was great. I didn't put brown sugar on it, for example, but I did put some berries on it, okay? Some blueberries and some pomegranates, I think they had there, and maybe a few grapes on there, and some melon.
So those brightly colored foods again.
Brightly colored foods, and I had a plate of the brightly colored foods cut up a little bit, good vegetables. I had the oatmeal, and it was just great breakfast. It was, I thought, perfect. Okay, and another day, I'd eat some egg whites. I'm not for the yolk because a lot of cholesterol, a lot of fat in it. Not that to eat 2 or 3 of those a week, I don't think would do much to you, but it had a lot of saturated fats in it. And with that, have a cup of fruit or a cup of oatmeal. I'm not that hard on bread, but Ezekiel bread. You know what I mean? It's made from sprouts. and it's enzymatically treated, so less calories.
And it's very chewy, I
Very
remember.
chewy, and
It's
it tastes
great.
good.
It's great stuff,
That's,
yes.
I use that.
What about
Yeah.
lunch and...
And lunch, have a big salad, for example. You know, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry thing you could throw in there, from onions to tomatoes, whatever.
Are you a fan of soups?
And I like a hot soup. I like a hot soup. Yeah, I'm like, say, stewing, for example, and just throw everything you dream up into it. In the breakfast, too, I meant to mention, I used to do some juicing and smoothies.
Okay.
You know, why? Because what's healthy? Vitamins, minerals, and 25,000 phytochemicals
Again,
that are in the fruits
yes.
of color. And if you take everything you can think of and throw it into, do some juicing in it, or a smoothie, I prefer the smoothie a little bit because you then still get the fiber. In the juicing, the fiber goes out the back, and but a tremendous concentration of phytochemicals.
Oh, it's kind of like a
And
wonderful milkshake,
yeah,
isn't
and
it?
that's a symphony, the orchestra of good health. You know
Yes.
what I mean? So you did that every day, even you had cancers, cancer preventative, or lead to, but just for good health, prevent illnesses, stay of normal weight, to do some juicing, and especially smoothies almost every day. Yeah. And I might add a little protein powder, but I don't think it's necessary. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can get books on that and pick them ones. And I have a green one, you know, there's spinach in it. On the work, my friend Dr. Rulo, the pediatrician, drinks one every day. And you know, and he sells it like a, I mean, I'm telling you, and I play him in tennis.
And how about dinner, as we're rolling to a close here?
Dinner, for example, I mean, I might have a piece of chicken, a piece of fish now and then. I'm not opposed to that, you know. The cruise I won was a vegan cruise, so they didn't recommend that at all. But I think 20% some meat here and there, and I have a big salad with it, and then some fruit for dessert, some berries, for example. But I think a salad should be the mainstay. But
That's
put everything
really
you can
wonderful.
into
And
it.
it sounds so good. I want to thank you for coming, Dr. Rudy. It's been such a pleasure. I'm Paula Jamison. I'm coming from Public Media Network in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Thank you so much for being here with us, Dr. Rudy.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. I've been loving this. This
Well,
is
I must
just a
say, you look like you
great
followed a
program.
non-diet.
Yes.